I grew up next to the ocean on the west coast, and I bought my first K1000 secondhand when I was 16, and that was 1994. And today I'm here in Kalk Bay and just in the harbour area, and it just reminds me so much of the pictures I tried to take when I was a teenager with my camera in the harbour in Lambert's Bay where I grew up. So it's quite an overcast day, but we got our Ilford HP5. I just need to check the water because the tide is coming in and it does splash over the harbour wall every now and again. So HP5's a 400 ASA film. I mean, this is also legendary film, contrasty, but grainy. It's not the smoothest black and white film. If you want a smoother 400, I'd say Delta 400 is probably your better option. But for vibe, HP5 is definitely a film that I would suggest. These cameras are so easy to load. There we go. Pull it over a little bit, make sure the little teeth are catching. There we go. Okay, so let's hope for the best. It really does have a satisfying clack. I really love it. A wave just broke over the whole harbour wall. That was a close call. My feet are so wet right now. I'm going to be sloshing for the rest of the day. Oh gosh, I hope that's not another one coming at me. Well, the one good thing is, with all this water, we've got a beautiful reflection now, so let's hope for the best. Could be serendipity. Hey buddy. Hey buddy. This guy is really posing for us. I suspect those might be quite generic. At this point, I started chatting to one of the skippers. He was busy working on his boat, and he told me a couple of very funny anecdotes. We actually spent a good 15 minutes chatting. Then I asked if I could take his portrait, and he agreed, and I sent him his pictures a couple of days later. After exhausting the opportunities that I saw, I decided to move over to the other harbour wall, but not before taking a couple of images of the waves crashing against the legendary Harbour House restaurant. I only had a couple of frames left after shooting most of my pictures on the other side of the harbour, but I thought it was worthwhile maybe just firing off a couple on this side. There were smaller boats on this side, and I think I got a couple of nice shots. 50mm is just a little bit too tight. "36 shots done." Okay, so that's the quickest 36 shots I've done on a roll of film in a long time. I was just having fun, I must say. Obviously doubled a bunch of shots. You know, nothing's changed. This camera is so much fun to work with. It's noisy like a manual camera should be. You should know that you're operating a mechanical piece of equipment. For the sake of the exercise, the 50mm was great also because it's the kit lens that you would have gotten with this camera. The camera body just has a great feel, even though it's square and boxy. Ergonomically, it just works. So let's take out the film, press the little release button, and spin. Let us head back into the studio to discuss this camera in slightly more technical detail. The Asahi Pentax K1000 was manufactured by the Asahi Optical Company from 1976 all the way to 1997, 21 years of that. The K1000 is the entry-level option of the K series of 35mm Pentax cameras. The K series features some other slightly less famous, I would say, versions like the K2, the KM and the KX. And these are all fairly basic cameras, but they have slightly more functions and features, a little bit more sophisticated than the K1000. The K1000 was really just aimed to be a cheaper, more affordable basic model. The K1000 was in fact the KM, but it didn't have the depth of field preview, and the self-timer was also removed. The K1000s were normally sold with an SMC Pentax Ms and the Pentax As, but today I will focus on the body only, as I feel like this lens really warrants a video all of its own, so we'll be focusing on the body. The K series actually replaced the much hallowed Spotmatic range of M42 cameras. So over here, this K1000 for most intents and purposes is a slightly restyled Pentax SPF or SP1000 or SP2. It just has a bayonet mount, and they took away again the self-timer and the depth of field preview, and the FPs had this FP flash socket, which was redundant by the time the K mounts came around, or the K series came around. According to Wikipedia, the production ceased when the manufacturing costs of analog microgalvanometers for the light meter became too expensive and parts too difficult to source. Production remained in Japan only till 1978, so 1976 to 1978, but it was moved to Hong Kong and was manufactured there from 1978 to 1990, and then it was moved to China as a cost-saving exercise. In fact, my very first K1000 was from the Chinese assembled crop. And one way to tell by just looking at the camera is there's no AO company logo or Asahi Optical Company, and the Asahi label has been removed from the Pentaprism completely, and it just says Pentax. Then you know this is a Chinese one. This K1000 over here that I bought later still has the Asahi there, and it sports that AO company logo, Japanese decals. This Chinese version had more plastic parts, like the top is actually painted plastic, and it actually, because there were more plastic used, the Chinese K1000 body is roughly 100 grams lighter than the bodies made prior to that. The Japanese versions, that was only manufactured for 2 years, and they are definitely more scarce. It has, like this one, Asahi and the AO company logos on the Pentaprism cover. The Asahi Optical company on the back is printed, but it also says Japan. Then it has a full plug here on the left side where the KX had some preview button or something like that. And all these top plates on the Japanese one are actually metal. The Hong Kong production time was from 1978 to 1990. It does say Asahi Optical Company on the back plate, but it does not say Japan. Then you know this is from Hong Kong. Still metal was used, but already plastic was starting to crop in the manufacturing process. And then the Chinese version, like this one, it'll say assembled in China, dead giveaway. The plastic in the top plates are completely plastic. It doesn't say Asahi on the prism or have the AO company logo. It has these two little screws there for the prism. In fact, they use a different prism than the other models. This shutter speed dial is completely plastic. It doesn't have a silver edge, where this one still has a silver edge. As far as I understand, about 3 million K1000s were manufactured, of which I own 2. Let's consider some basic specs of this camera. It's a 35mm single lens reflex camera. Its operation is completely manual. I mean, there's nothing automatic here. The shutter is a horizontal rubberized silk cloth focal plane shutter. It has shutter speeds from bulb actually to 1/1000th of a second. Its flash sync speed is only 1/60th of a second. It does not have a self timer. It does have a PC sync plug, so you can use external flashes on it. It has the flash hot shoe, so that you can use flashes on the camera. The viewfinder is a Pentaprism eye-level viewfinder. It has that micro prism spot focusing system, and you will see your light meter needle on the right hand with the basic plus, minus, and middle setting. This viewfinder actually has 92% coverage, so you miss about 8% of the scene. The battery is a LR44, or SR44, which is a bit more expensive, but LR44 is more common. You can use an A76 or an S76, and you can also use the silver oxide 357 or 303 batteries. Or even better, you can use it without a battery, but then the light meter does not work. The light meter is a cadmium sulfide TTL average metering light meter. It's a CDS light meter, or TTL through the lens light meter. It uses open aperture metering as opposed to stop down, so the image in the viewfinder will remain bright, and it only closes down as you take the picture. This camera cannot be switched on and off, so the lens cap actually needs to stay on the lens, otherwise the light meter will keep reacting to light and it will drain the battery. It does not have depth of field preview. The ISO range is actually all the way from 8 to 6400. The lens mount is a K mount bayonet system. Some you'll see it's also referred to as a PK mount. The Chinese version is 525 grams, this one is 620 grams. And construction average out over all the models is metal, glass obviously, and plastic. You'll also notice there's a K1000 SE around. It's a slight upgrade, I suppose. It has a split prism rangefinder and micro prism ring focusing. Some of them has a different leatherette color. It's like a little bit more brown. I haven't seen those around, I must say. I've only seen them online. My takeaways from using this camera for almost 30 years, in my opinion, the light meter is very good. You can use a huge amount of lenses. The other thing is they are, even today, still fairly affordable. Probably a bit overpriced for a basic camera. So it's not necessarily the cheapest, or if you want to look at function versus price, not the best value of money, but you are buying into an absolute legend, almost a cult camera system. It's also very, very durable, and I've dropped this old one a fair number of times, and I can say it is, indeed, it's very rugged. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like, subscribe, the normal story. I will put down some affiliate links for some K1000 deals I found online, and you're welcome to click through and have a look at those. But until next time, I will see you in the next video.